History often remembers kings for their crowns and conquests, but rarely the hands that shaped their destiny. Among the silent shadows of the Ottoman court stood one woman whose story began not in silk and gold, but in fire and chains. She was stolen from her homeland, stripped of her name, and sold like property. Yet, she would rise from a nameless captive to become one of the most powerful women in Islamic history. Her name was Hurrem Sultan. This is not a love story. It is the story of survival, of how a single woman turned captivity into command and reshaped the very structure of an empire built by men. In the 16th century, the Ottoman Empire reached its golden age under Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent. Its armies expanded across Europe and Asia. Its palaces glittered like heavens on earth. Yet within those marble walls, another empire thrived, a hidden one ruled by women in whispers. Hurrem Sultan was not born to rule, she was born to endure. And in enduring, she discovered the oldest secret of power, that survival, when sharpened by intelligence, becomes something far more dangerous than conquest. Tonight, we step into the forbidden chambers of the Topkapi Palace to uncover how a slave girl from the borderlands of Europe became the most formidable queen of the Ottoman world. Before she was Hurrem Sultan, she was simply a girl. Her true name has been lost to time, perhaps Anastasia, perhaps Alexandra Lasovska. She was born in the cold plains near the border of Poland and Lithuania, in a modest Christian village surrounded by forests and fields. Her father was a priest. Her life was ordinary, peaceful, and small. That peace ended one night in smoke and screaming. Crimean Tatar raiders stormed her village like shadows with torches. They killed, burned, and took the young. Among them was the girl who would one day change the destiny of an empire. Shackled and weeping, she was marched to the slave markets of Kaffa, a grim port on the Black Sea where human lives were traded for silver. From there, she was shipped to Constantinople, the beating heart of the Ottoman Empire. The markets there were not only filled with spices and silk, but with bodies. She was sold to the household of Hafsa Sultan, the mother of the newly crowned Sultan Suleiman. The girl was renamed times Hurrem Asterisk, the cheerful one. The name was meant to please her owners, but it became her first mask. The harem she entered was not a place of romance. It was a political machine. To the outside world, it looked like paradise rooms of marble, fountains, music, perfume. But behind the beauty lay a world of silence and control. The women were trained not in freedom, but in obedience. Every gesture, every step, every glance had meaning. Hurrem learned quickly. She studied languages, poetry, music, and the art of pleasing without surrendering. In this gilded prison, she understood something vital, that knowledge could be more dangerous than beauty, and patience more powerful than rebellion. The Sultan's mother ruled the harem like a general. She controlled who slept beside the Sultan and who disappeared into obscurity. When the time came to choose a concubine for her son, she chose Hurrem. That night, the young woman bathed, was perfumed, painted, and led on her knees before the ruler of half the world. But unlike the countless women who came before her, Hurrem did not tremble. She met the Sultan's gaze with calm defiance. It was not submission, it was strategy. From that night onward, her life changed. She had entered the bed of Suleiman the Magnificent, but more importantly, she had entered the game of power. And in the Ottoman world, only those who understood the rules survived. In the heart of the Ottoman court, affection was never pure. It was a transaction, a weapon, and sometimes a trap. Hurrem understood this better than anyone. While other concubines competed through beauty or obedience, she used something far rarer: intelligence. Suleiman the Magnificent was not just a conqueror. He was a poet, a man of refined thought and melancholy. Hurrem saw the loneliness in him and offered not worship, but conversation. She spoke with wit, laughed freely, and shared verses in his own language. For the first time, a sultan found not just a companion for the night, but a partner for the mind. Her confidence was unsettling. To the women of the harem, she was a threat. To the men of the court, an anomaly. Yet to Suleiman, she was irresistible. But power never blooms without envy. Mahidevran Sultan, the mother of Suleiman's eldest son Mustafa, watched her influence grow with fury. She had long been the Sultan's favorite, and now she saw her place slipping away. One day, rage took over. Mahidevran attacked Hurrem, tearing her face with her nails. When Suleiman called for Hurrem again, she refused. She said, "I am no longer worthy of your presence. I am damaged goods." It was a masterstroke. In a world where obedience was survival, refusal was rebellion. And it worked. The Sultan's curiosity turned to admiration. His admiration became attachment. From that day, she was no longer one of many, she was the one. Soon after, Hurrem gave birth to her first son, Prince Mehmed. That alone should have secured her future, but the rules of the empire forbade what came next. No concubine was meant to bear more than one son, for multiple sons meant alliances and rebellion. Yet Hurrem continued to bear him children, 4 more sons and a daughter. The court whispered that she had bewitched him, that she used spells, potions, or even poison. Others said she had simply discovered the deepest truth of the Ottoman palace, that love, when wielded correctly, could control an emperor more effectively than any army. Suleiman wrote her poetry, calling her his moonlight, his springtime, his only joy. In a world built on war and blood, she offered him peace. And that peace, paradoxically, became her greatest weapon. But in palaces of gold, love is never safe. Hurrem had risen too high, and in the shadows, knives were already being sharpened. Love had given Hurrem power, but power demanded a price. Every glance, every whisper, every rumor inside the Topkapi Palace could decide life or death. Hurrem had learned the rules of this silent war, and she was ready to play harder than anyone before her. Her first move was subtle, almost invisible. Among Suleiman's closest allies was his Grand Vizier, Ibrahim Pasha. He had once been a slave, a brother-in-arms to the Sultan, and one of the few men who could speak to him as an equal. But years of success had made Ibrahim arrogant. He was wealthy, powerful, and loyal, not to Hurrem, but to Prince Mustafa, Mahidevran's son, the greatest threat to Hurrem's children. Hurrem whispered carefully. She spoke of corruption, of arrogance, of how even a faithful servant could become a danger to the throne. Suleiman, torn between love and loyalty, hesitated. But once a seed of suspicion is planted in a ruler's mind, it grows quickly. One night, the Sultan invited Ibrahim to dinner. They laughed, they reminisced, they drank. When the night was over and Ibrahim fell asleep, Suleiman gave the order. The Grand Vizier was strangled with a silk cord, an execution worthy of royal blood. By morning, Hurrem had erased one of the most powerful men in the empire without ever lifting a hand. Her weapon was not poison or blade, but silence. Yet her true battle had only begun. Prince Mustafa had grown into a soldier adored by the army and beloved by the people. He was brave, noble, and strong, the kind of heir an empire longed for. But for Hurrem, he was the shadow looming over her son's future. When her beloved son Mehmed died of smallpox, and another son, Cihangir, was born with a twisted spine, Hurrem's sense of time sharpened. The window to secure her family's survival was closing. So she acted once more, this time with precision. Her daughter Mirama married Rustam Pasha, the new Grand Vizier, loyal to Hurrem alone. Together, they wove a web of rumor that Prince Mustafa was plotting to overthrow his father. The Sultan resisted at first. He loved his son deeply, but whispers are more persistent than truth. In 1553, while Suleiman was on campaign in Persia, Mustafa rushed to his father's tent, desperate to clear his name. He bowed, waiting for forgiveness. Instead, the guards seized him. He was strangled before his father's eyes. Suleiman wept, but did not stop it. The death of Mustafa secured Hurrem's son's place in the line of succession, but it shattered something inside her. The woman who had learned to survive through strategy had now destroyed her peace forever. Her youngest son died soon after. Only 2 remained, Selim and Bayezid. Both were princes. Only one could inherit. And though Hurrem's plans had bought time, they could not stop fate. When the throne is built on blood, even victory tastes like grief. By the time Hurrem Sultan reached her 50s, she was no longer merely a consort. She was a queen in all but name. And then, she achieved the unthinkable. Suleiman, the ruler who commanded armies and terrified kings, freed her from slavery and made her his legal wife. No sultan had married a concubine in over a century. To the court, it was heresy. To the world, it was madness. But to Suleiman, it was justice for the woman who had stood beside him through war, grief, and betrayal. They called her times Haseki Sultan Asterisk, the chief wife. She moved into the royal apartments beside her husband, rooms forbidden to women since the time of Mehmed the Conqueror. The empire trembled at the sight of her new power. Ministers whispered that she had bewitched the Sultan. Scholars called her dangerous. But outside those walls, The people began to see her differently. Hurrem turned her influence toward compassion. She funded schools, mosques, and fountains across the empire. In Istanbul, she built a great charitable complex that included a women's hospital right beside the slave market where she had once been sold. It was her silent rebellion against the chains of her past. She also became a diplomat. Through letters and emissaries, she maintained peace with her homeland of Poland and with European courts that once saw her as an enemy. She had become the empire's hidden voice, bridging worlds that war had long divided. Even while Suleiman campaigned across Europe, Hurrem's presence never left his mind. Their letters reveal a bond both tender and strategic. If the seas were ink and the trees pens, she wrote, they could not describe my sorrow for our parting. Yet in the same lines, she warned him of threats, conspiracies, and shifting loyalties within the court. Love and politics had fused completely. But the final act of Hurrem's story was not written in marble or gold. It was written in the quiet moments of decline. Her health began to fail. Her sons Selim and Bayezid grew restless, each seeing the other as an obstacle. Hurrem tried to hold the fragile balance she had created, but even her cunning could not stop the storm. In 1558, Hurrem Sultan died. Suleiman, once the conqueror of continents, now found himself conquered by grief. He wore simple linen instead of silk. He ate from clay bowls instead of gold. For 8 years, he mourned her until death took him too. When he was buried beside her in the Suleymaniye Mosque, their tombs stood side by side, emperor and slave, ruler and woman, united in death as they had defied the world in life. But Hurrem's story did not end there. Her rise had ignited something that could not be buried, an era historians now call asterisk, asterisk, the Sultanate of Women, asterisk, asterisk. For the next 100 years, mothers, wives, and daughters of sultans would rule from behind the veils of the harem, issuing decrees, shaping foreign policy, even declaring wars. Hurrem had transformed the harem from a prison into a throne. Her enemies called her a witch, but history remembers her as something far greater, the woman who proved that power is not given, it is taken. Hurrem Sultan's story is one of the most haunting transformations in history, a tale that begins in chains and ends beneath a golden dome. She entered the Ottoman palace as a slave, with no past, no name, and no right to dream. Yet she left it as the most powerful woman the empire had ever known. Her triumph was not born of mercy or fortune, but of intelligence sharpened by suffering. Every decision she made came from necessity, not greed. In a world where women were meant to obey, she learned to command. Where they were silenced, she learned to speak through action. Where they were erased, she carved her name into stone. Hurrem's legacy remains divided. Some call her manipulative, a woman who destroyed men for ambition. Others see her as a visionary who used the only tools available to her to survive in a world built to destroy her. Both are true. She was ruthless because she had to be. She was compassionate because she remembered pain. She was loyal, deceitful, devoted, and dangerous all at once. Even centuries later, her tomb still draws visitors. Its turquoise tiles shimmer under the same sun that once shone on her palace. Inside, verses from the Quran surround her resting place, speaking not of scandal or seduction, but of faith and endurance. Hurrem Sultan did not conquer lands. She conquered history itself. Her life forced the empire and the world to ask a question that still echoes through time. Asterisk. Can love and power coexist, or does one always destroy the other? Asterisk. In the end, Hurrem's true rebellion was not against kings, nor against fate, it was against invisibility. She refused to be forgotten. And that is why, even after empires crumble and names fade from marble, her story endures. Because she did what few dared to do. She lived, she ruled, and she left the world no choice but to remember her. Asterisk. If this story moved you, like and subscribe to discover more forgotten voices, hidden empires, and the women who changed history in silence. Asterisk.